Well, the big news across Major League Baseball, it is trade deadline day, and one of the guys we've been waiting on, Juan Soto, he is leaving the Nationals along with Josh Bell, going to the Padres, who are way the heck in. Let's bring in DK contributor Gary and Thorne. And Gary, and obviously you've already got Fernando Tatis there, you've got Manny Machado there. What do you think of the landing spot, and just how good is this going to make San Diego?
I mean, it makes them a very, very dangerous lineup. I think obviously you want to focus on Juan Soto first and foremost. He's a generational talent. He's someone who, not only from a narrative perspective, but literally from a statistical perspective, you can group together with Ted Williams, which is not something we get to say all that often. So at 23 years of age, this is sort of like an unprecedented move for a player of his skill level since probably Miguel Cabrera left the Marlins for the Tigers about 2 decades ago. So this is unprecedented stuff, but I think you also don't want to sleep on the fact that Josh Bell has been one of the best hitters in the National League so far this season. His expected WOBA and expected slugging percentage is above the 90th percentile of qualified hitters this season. He's hovering around a 145 WRC plus in 2022. So he's not like, a toss-in either. He's been a fantastic player, and it really does lengthen that Padres lineup, especially when Fernando Tatis is probably like a week or two away from returning and being back on a baseball field. So not only are the Padres going to be really good, they're going to just be really fun and exciting to watch.
Gary, and when it comes to title contention, though, obviously you have the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Astros, the Mets. I mean, there are a bunch of teams that are obviously really, really good that there are high expectations for. But now with this move, adding a guy, not just Bell, who you highlighted, but the prize of the package, Juan Soto going to San Diego. And I know odds are going to fluctuate over the course of this day. It's trade deadline day. But where do you slot the Padres' chances among some of those other contenders?
So the dangerous aspect of this is just the new sort of playoff seeding system in Major League Baseball. The Padres, unless something historic happens, and look, just because the Dodgers didn't get Juan Soto doesn't suddenly mean the Dodgers are a bad team. They're still one of the best rosters in all of baseball and have a 12-game lead in the NL West over the Padres right now. I think if you're the Padres, you're pretty much just hoping to lock down that 4th seed, that top wild card spot, and get home field advantage in that 3-game playoff series. But the worrisome thing is you've got another division in the National League with 2 incredible teams. Arguably, the 4 best teams in the National League now reside in both the NL West and the NL East, which means even if you're the Padres, even after doing all of this and pushing all your chips in, and we should say, too, this isn't like a 1-year thing. They've got Juan Soto under team control till 2024, so they don't have to win this season to make this trade worthwhile, but they're still going to have to play the Mets or the Braves in a 3-game wild card series, and that is a dangerous proposition. So I would be careful, especially with that Padres number getting smaller and smaller on the DraftKings Sportsbook, laying too much on them, because they still do have an uphill battle just because they will not win this division and they will not get a bye.
It is one of the biggest trades in baseball history. The return is massive for the Nats. You got 2 top 100 prospects heading back to Washington. Reportedly, Eric Hosmer. We will see. What do you think?
I mean, it's interesting the way the trade sort of broke. Initially, John Morosi sort of had it as C.J. Abrams and Robert Hassel and obviously some other top-end prospects for the Padres, and it seemed light. And then suddenly you get Jeff Passan adding in Mackenzie Gore and, the salary implications or whatever with Eric Hosmer. We'll see what happens with all of that. But, first and foremost, I'm of the opinion you just don't trade Juan Soto. He is a generational talent. The Nationals should have found a way to keep him on their team. So anything they could have gotten back would have seemed, underwhelming, I think. And that's not to say they didn't get a ton of amazing prospects. You mentioned 2 top 100 prospects currently. C.J. Abrams and Mackenzie Gore have graduated off of the prospect list, but they were top 10 prospects in their own right the past couple of seasons. Gore obviously has that elbow issue that doesn't seem to be too serious. His physical was probably a big part of this trade for the Nationals and seeing what his health is, the health of that left arm. But they've got some good players, but at the end of the day, there were reports that the fact that the Cardinals weren't including Dylan Carlson was kind of holding up that prospective trade to St. Louis for Juan Soto. And it's like, why are we talking about Dylan Carlson in the same conversation as we're talking about Juan Soto? So the scope of this just seems off in general. I feel like the Nationals probably did as well as they were going to do, especially that they decided that they wouldn't try to attach the contract to Patrick Corbin, which definitely would have limited the prospect haul they got in return. So I think they were at least able to maximize that. But at the end of the day, I would just have tried to keep Juan Soto, if I'm being honest.
So listen, I recognize that everything you said, Juan Soto, a generational player, he's an all-star for the second time in his career, second straight year, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, Gary, and that by Soto standards, hasn't been a great year for him, you know? I mean, we're talking about a guy the last couple of years was a top 5 MVP vote getter, so maybe some of that was the distraction, the uncertainty about his future. Now that he has a new home, what's this mean for his fantasy value?
I mean, I would hope what we kind of see with Juan Soto is a little bit more aggressive version of Juan Soto. Now, you know, I wouldn't say he's passive because he's not. He's just got the best eye in all of baseball, so he's going to draw his walks. But when it comes to fantasy baseball and DFS specifically, you don't often try to get a guy who's going to walk 3 times in a game. You want batted ball events. You want the upside of home runs and doubles and triples, etc. So my hope would be that now in a lineup where, again, by the end of August, he should be hitting between Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado. You know, Josh Bell will still be hitting behind him, so that doesn't really change. But obviously, you inject the Machados and the Titatisas into the world in this situation. I'm just hoping that we see that 20% walk rate maybe go down to something like 15%. And he's really just producing more batted ball events, and that helps his counting statistics across the board because this is going to be a dangerous lineup that scores a lot of runs the rest of the season. So I think RBI potential, run potential, all of that is going to go up for Juan Soto just because he's playing for a better team. The ballpark factors are worse in Petco than they would be at Nationals Park, but I just think this is a better situation for him. And yeah, while he's maybe not having the Juan Soto season that we've come to expect from him, even in his underwhelming season, he's better than 85% of all hitters in the league. So that just speaks to his floor and how good and really just what a high ceiling Juan Soto has. So I think this move can only benefit him. And hopefully, like I said, it makes him just a slightly more aggressive hitter.
Huge, huge move, but since we know Shohei Ohtani isn't going anywhere, there isn't going to be a bigger move today in terms of a star, a stud going somewhere else. Juan Soto, now a San Diego Padre. Gary, thank you very much. I'm Adam Kaufman. Stay with us here on DraftKings throughout the day.